The old wooden fence around Peterson's feed store had seen better days. Paint peeled off in long strips and several boards hung loose on their rusty nails. But for 12-year-old Lily Martinez, that broken fence was the only thing standing between her baby sister's life and death. She pressed her small body against the weathered wood, her heart beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dusty ground, and the smell of grain and hay filled the air. This was her third time watching the store today, waiting for the right moment when nobody would see her. Back at their tiny trailer on Maple Street, her 18-month-old sister Rosa lay on a torn mattress, barely moving. The little girl's eyes had lost their sparkle 3 days ago. Her tiny ribs showed through her thin cotton dress and her lips were dry and cracked. The last bottle of formula had run out yesterday morning, and Rosa had refused the sugar water Lily tried to give her. Lily touched the 23 cents in her pocket. That was all the money left in the whole world. She had counted it so many times the coins were warm from her fingers. 23 cents wouldn't buy anything that could help Rosa, not even a small can of baby food from the corner store. Their mother had been gone for almost a month now. One morning, Lily woke up to find a handwritten note on the kitchen table that said, "Gone to find work in Dallas. Take care of Rosa. We'll send money soon. Love, Mama." But no money had come. No phone calls either. Just silence that grew heavier each day. The neighbors had helped at first. Mrs. Chen from next door brought over some leftover rice and vegetables. The family across the street gave them a loaf of bread that was getting old. But people had their own problems and the help slowly stopped coming. Lily was too proud to keep asking, especially when she saw how some neighbors looked at them with pity in their eyes. She had tried everything she could think of. Last week she walked to every house in a 6-block area, asking if anyone needed yard work or help cleaning. A few people gave her small jobs, sweeping porches, pulling weeds, washing windows. But the money ran out fast. Baby formula was expensive, and Rosa needed it every few hours to stay alive. The food bank on 3rd Street only opened on Thursdays and Saturdays. Lily had been there twice, standing in line with Rosa in her arms, watching other families get boxes of groceries. But you needed to bring papers, bills and documents that proved where you lived and how much money your family made. Lily couldn't find those papers anywhere in the trailer. Maybe Mama took them, or maybe they were lost in the pile of unopened mail on the kitchen counter. 3 nights ago, when Rosa started crying from hunger and wouldn't stop, Lily made her first trip to look through garbage cans behind restaurants. She found some old bread and fruit that wasn't too bad. But Rosa couldn't eat solid food yet, and Lily's own stomach felt empty and sick most of the time now. Yesterday, she had walked to the McDonald's on Highway 12 and asked the manager if she could work there. The woman behind the counter looked surprised to see such a young girl asking for a job. "Honey, you need to be at least 16 to work here," she said kindly. "And you should be in school." Lily didn't tell her that she hadn't been to school in 2 weeks. How could she sit in a classroom learning about math and science when Rosa might be dying at home? Now, as the sun started to set behind the feed store, Lily watched the last customer of the day walk to his truck and drive away. The store owner, Mr. Peterson, locked the front door and got in his car. She saw his red taillights disappear around the corner, heading toward the nice part of town where all the store owners lived. But Lily knew someone was still inside. She had been watching long enough to learn the patterns. There was always one person who stayed late to do paperwork or move things around. Usually it was the tall cowboy with the gray beard who worked there. She had seen him loading feed bags into people's trucks and helping customers find what they needed. The back of the store was darker now, with only one yellow light bulb hanging over the door. Lily looked around carefully. The street was empty except for a stray cat walking slowly across the pavement. Even the houses nearby seemed quiet, with their windows glowing warm from dinner time and television shows. She thought about Rosa again, remembering how the baby used to laugh and clap her hands when Lily sang to her. Now Rosa barely had energy to cry. This morning when Lily tried to wake her up, it took a long time for those little brown eyes to open. That scared Lily more than anything else that had happened. The gap in the fence was just wide enough for a skinny 12-year-old girl to squeeze through. Lily had noticed it 2 days ago when she was walking past the store, hoping to find dropped coins in the parking lot. Some of the boards had rotted at the bottom, leaving a space big enough for her to crawl through if she was very careful. Her hands shook as she got down on her knees and looked through the gap. Inside the fenced area, she could see bags of different kinds of animal food stacked on wooden pallets. Some bags were torn or had small holes in them where mice had gotten in. Mr. Peterson would probably throw those damaged bags away anyway. Lily had never stolen anything in her whole life. Her grandmother, who died when Lily was 8, always told her that taking things that didn't belong to you was wrong, no matter what. God sees everything you do, Mija, Grandma used to say. Always choose what's right even when it's hard. But what was right when your baby sister was starving? What was right when you were 12 years old and completely alone, with no adults to help you figure out what to do? She squeezed through the gap in the fence, feeling splinters from the broken wood catch on her faded blue t-shirt. Once inside, she crouched low and moved quietly toward the stacks of feed bags. Her bare feet made no sound on the packed dirt ground. The bags were heavier than they looked. She tried to lift a small one marked chicken feed, but could barely get it off the ground. There was another pile of bags that looked different. These had pictures of cows and horses on them, but the bags were smaller. She managed to drag one toward the fence, her thin arms burning with the effort. As she struggled with the bag, Lily tried not to think about what she was doing. This wasn't really stealing, she told herself. This was saving Rosa's life. Maybe animal feed wasn't the same as baby food, but it had to have some nutrition in it. People in poor countries probably fed their children whatever they could find. Rosa was so hungry that she might eat anything now. The bag felt like it weighed 100 pounds as Lily pulled it across the ground. She was breathing hard and sweating, even though the evening air was getting cool. Just a few more feet and she could push it through the gap in the fence. Then she could drag it home and figure out how to make it into something Rosa could eat. She was so focused on moving the heavy bag that she didn't hear the footsteps coming around the side of the building. She didn't notice the shadow that fell across her path, or see the figure standing quietly in the darkness, watching her struggle. All she could think about was Rosa, lying alone in the trailer, waiting for her big sister to come home with something, anything that might save her life. The weight of being responsible for another person felt heavier than the bag of feed in her hands. At 12 years old, Lily was carrying a burden that most adults would find overwhelming, but she kept pulling that bag toward the fence, because that's what big sisters do. They don't give up, even when everything seems impossible. They keep fighting, keep trying, keep hoping that somehow, some way things will get better. The gap in the fence was just a few feet away now, just a little bit further, and she would be able to take this food home to Rosa. It might not be perfect, but it was better than nothing. It was hope in the form of a heavy canvas bag that smelled like grain and dust and possibilities. Lily didn't know that her whole life was about to change in ways she never could have imagined. She didn't know that sometimes when you're at your lowest point, when you've tried everything and nothing seems to work, that's exactly when miracles decide to show up. All she knew was that she had to keep moving forward, one step at a time, because giving up wasn't an option when someone you love is counting on you to save them. The sound of a door opening behind her made Lily's blood turn to ice water in her veins. Bright yellow light suddenly flooded the area where she was crouched, turning her small shadow into a giant dark shape on the ground. The heavy bag of feed slipped from her trembling hands and hit the dirt with a dull thud that seemed as loud as thunder in the quiet evening air. Well now, what do we have here? The voice wasn't angry or mean, but it wasn't exactly friendly either. It was the kind of voice that made you stop whatever you were doing and pay attention. Lily's whole body froze like a rabbit caught in headlights. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't even turn around to see who was talking. Her mind raced with terrible thoughts. They would call the police. She would go to jail. Rosa would be alone in the trailer with no one to take care of her. The baby would starve, and it would be all Lily's fault for getting caught stealing. Turn around. Hey, slowly. Lily's legs felt like they were made of rubber, but somehow she managed to stand up and face the person who had caught her. The man standing in the doorway was tall and broad-shouldered, with gray hair and a beard that made him look older than he probably was. His clothes were dusty from a day of working with grain and hay, and his boots were scuffed and worn. This had to be the cowboy she had seen working at the store during the day. His name was Tom Wesley, though Lily didn't know that yet. What she could see in his weathered face were lines around his eyes that came from years of squinting in the sun, and hands that looked strong enough to lift feed bags all day without getting tired. But what surprised her most was that he didn't look mean or angry. He just looked curious. You picked a pretty heavy bag there. Tom said, glancing down at the feed sack she had been trying to drag toward the fence. That's 50 pounds of cattle feed. Most grown men need both hands to carry one of those. Lily opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Her throat felt dry as sandpaper. She wanted to run, but her feet seemed glued to the ground. The gap in the fence that had looked so close just a minute ago now seemed miles away. Tom stepped out of the doorway and walked slowly toward her. The way someone might approach a scared animal they didn't want to frighten even more. He kept his hands where she could see them and didn't make any sudden movements. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she whispered, so quietly he almost couldn't hear her. "Well, Lily, I'm Tom. I work here at the store." He stopped about 10 feet away from her, close enough to talk, but far enough to give her space. "Now, I'm guessing you didn't come here tonight because you suddenly decided you wanted to start raising cattle. So why don't you tell me what's really going on?" Tears started running down Lily's cheeks before she even realized she was crying. All the fear and worry and exhaustion from the past month suddenly hit her at once. Her shoulders shook, and she wrapped her thin arms around herself like she was trying to hold herself together. "I'm sorry," she choked out between sobs. "I'm really, really sorry. I never stole anything before, I swear. I didn't know what else to do." Tom's expression softened when he saw how upset she was. This wasn't some kid pulling a prank or trying to cause trouble. This was a child who was desperate about something. He had seen that look before during the bad years when drought killed the crops and families had to make impossible choices just to survive. "Hey now, it's okay," he said gently. "Nobody's calling the police. Nobody's in trouble. But that feed you were trying to take, it's not going to help whatever problem you're dealing with. Cattle feed isn't meant for people to eat." "It's not for me," Lily said, wiping her nose on her sleeve. "It's for my sister. She's just a baby and she's really sick. And I don't have any money for formula. And I tried everything else I could think of, but nothing worked. And I was scared she was going to—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Saying the words out loud would make them too real. Tom felt something twist in his chest. He had grandchildren of his own, and the thought of any child going hungry made his hands clench into fists. But he kept his voice calm and steady. "Where are your parents, Lily?" "Mama went to find work in Dallas. She said she'd send money, but that was almost a month ago. And she never called or anything. I don't know where my dad is. He left when Rosa was born." "Rosa's your sister?" Lily nodded, fresh tears spilling down her face. "She's only 18 months old. She can't eat regular food yet. She needs formula, but I can't afford it. And the food bank needs papers I can't find. And nobody will hire me because I'm too young. And I don't know what to do anymore." The whole story came pouring out of her in a rush of words and tears. Tom listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with each detail. A 12-year-old girl trying to take care of a baby all by herself. No adults around to help. No money, no food, no options left except stealing animal feed in a desperate attempt to keep her sister alive. When Lily finished talking, Tom was quiet for a long moment. He looked at this skinny kid with her tangled hair and clothes that were too big for her, and saw something that reminded him of his own daughter at that age. Strong, determined, willing to do anything to protect the people she loved. "Where do you live?" he asked finally. "The trailer park on Maple Street. Number 15. Lily wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Are you going to call someone? Social services or something?" Tom thought about that. He could call the authorities and they would come and take both girls away. Rosa would get proper medical care and food, but she and Lily would probably be split up and sent to different foster homes. That might be the safest thing, but it would also break this little girl's heart. Or he could pretend he never saw anything and let Lily walk away. But then what? She'd be back tomorrow night or the night after that, getting more desperate each time. And that bag of cattle feed still wouldn't help a starving baby. There had to be a third option, something that would help both girls without tearing their family apart. "Tell me more about your sister," Tom said. "What exactly is wrong with her?" "She won't eat anything. I tried giving her water with sugar in it and some mashed up crackers, but she just turns her head away. She sleeps all the time now, and when she cries it sounds different, weaker." Lily's voice got smaller as she talked. "I think she might be really sick, not just hungry." Tom nodded. He had raised 4 kids of his own, and what Lily was describing sounded like severe malnutrition. A baby that age needed proper nutrition immediately, or there could be permanent damage, maybe even worse. "Lily, I want you to listen to me carefully," he said, his voice serious but kind. "That cattle feed you were trying to take, It would actually make your sister sicker, not better. It's got things in it that babies can't digest. It could hurt her stomach really bad. Lily's face went white. She hadn't thought about that. She had just seen feed and thought it meant food. The idea that she might have accidentally poisoned Rosa made her feel sick to her stomach. But, Tom continued, there are other ways to help her. Better ways. Ways that will actually work. What do you mean? Lily asked, a tiny spark of hope flickering in her eyes. Tom looked at this brave little girl who had been carrying an impossible burden all by herself and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Sometimes when you see someone who needs help, you don't wait for permission or worry about whether it's convenient. You just do what's right. I mean, he said, pulling his truck keys out of his pocket, that you and I are going to take a little drive. There's a 24-hour grocery store about 15 minutes from here, and they've got everything a baby needs to get healthy again. Lily stared at him like he had just spoken in a foreign language. I don't understand. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Tom smiled, and for the first time since this whole thing started, Lily thought maybe everything might actually be okay. Sometimes, kiddo, that's exactly why you help someone. Because they need it, and you can do it, and it's the right thing to do. Now come on, let's go take care of that sister of yours. The inside of Tom's pickup truck smelled like leather and coffee, with a hint of the hay and grain he hauled for work. Lily sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded tightly in her lap, still not quite believing this was really happening. Just 20 minutes ago, she thought her life was over. Now she was driving toward help with a stranger who seemed like he might actually be an angel. The grocery store sat at the edge of town, its bright fluorescent lights making it look like a spaceship that had landed in the middle of nowhere. Tom parked near the front entrance and turned off the engine. For a moment, they both sat in silence, watching people push shopping carts full of food toward their cars. Before we go in there, Tom said quietly, I need you to tell me everything. And I mean everything, Lily. If I'm going to help you and your sister, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Lily looked down at her hands. Where should she even start? How do you explain to someone that your whole life fell apart so slowly you didn't notice until it was too late to fix? Mama wasn't always like this, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. When I was little, before Rosa was born, she had a job at the diner on Main Street. She worked really hard, and we had our own apartment with 2 bedrooms and everything. Tom listened without saying anything, giving her time to find the words. But then she met Rosa's dad, and he was quite different. He was nice at first, I guess. But then he started drinking a lot and getting angry about things. When Mama got pregnant, he said he wasn't ready to be a father. He left before Rosa was even born. That must have been hard on your mother, Tom said gently. Yeah, it really was. She cried all the time when she was pregnant. And after Rosa came, she couldn't work as much because babies need so much attention. The diner said they couldn't hold her job anymore because she missed too many days. Lily wiped her nose with the back of her hand. The memories were hard to talk about, but somehow it felt good to finally tell someone the whole truth. We had to move to the trailer because it was cheaper. Mama tried to find other jobs, but nobody wanted to hire someone who had to bring a baby to work. She started getting really sad and tired all the time. She said she felt like she was failing at everything. What about other family? Grandparents, aunts, uncles? My grandma died when I was 8. She was the only family we had who lived close by. Mama has a sister in California, but they don't talk anymore because of some fight they had years ago. Lily's voice got smaller. I think Mama felt really alone. Tom nodded, piecing together the story of a young woman who got overwhelmed by circumstances beyond her control. It wasn't an excuse for abandoning her children, but it helped explain how things had gotten so desperate. The last few months were the worst, Lily continued. Mama started talking about how we'd all be better off without her. She said she was holding us back, that maybe Rosa and I deserved a better mother. I kept telling her that wasn't true, but she wouldn't listen. Is that when she decided to leave? I think she had been planning it for a while. She started giving me lessons on how to take care of Rosa, how to make formula, when to change diapers, what to do if the baby got sick. I thought she was just trying to teach me to be a good big sister. I didn't know she was getting ready to go away. Lily's voice broke a little as she remembered that last morning. When I woke up and found the note, I thought maybe she was just going to be gone for a few days. The note said she would send money and come back when she found work. I kept waiting for a phone call or a letter with some cash in it, but nothing came. Nothing. And Rosa started running out of formula about a week after Mama left. I made it last as long as I could, adding more water to stretch it out, but that just made Rosa hungrier and crankier. Tom felt his chest tighten with anger at a mother who would abandon her children like that. But he also felt sorry for a woman who must have been drowning in despair to think leaving was her only option. "What did you do for money?" he asked. "At first I used the $27 Mama left. But formula is expensive and so are diapers." That money was gone in about a week and a half. Lily twisted her hands in her lap. "Then I started asking neighbors for help. Most people were really nice and gave me food or a few dollars when they could. But I could see they were getting tired of helping, and I was too embarrassed to keep asking." "That's when you started looking for work?" "Yeah, I went to every store and restaurant I could think of. But like the lady at McDonald's said, you have to be 16 to get a real job. A few people let me do small things like sweeping or weeding for a little bit of money, but it wasn't enough." Tom did some quick math in his head. Formula diapers and basic food for 2 kids would cost at least $100 a week, probably more. There was no way a 12-year-old could earn that much doing odd jobs around the neighborhood. "What about school? Haven't your teachers noticed you've been missing?" Lily looked embarrassed. "I stopped going about 2 weeks ago. I couldn't leave Rosa alone and I couldn't bring her with me. Besides, how could I sit in class learning about history and math when my sister was starving at home?" "Lily, sweetheart, you know someone from the school is going to come looking for you eventually, right? When kids stop showing up, they have to check and make sure everything is okay." "I know," she said quietly. "I've been scared about that too. I was hoping Mama would come back before anyone noticed I was gone." Tom looked at this thin, exhausted little girl and marveled at how much responsibility she had been carrying. Most adults would have cracked under that kind of pressure. But somehow she had kept going, kept fighting, kept trying to find solutions to problems that were way too big for her to handle alone. "Tell me about Rosa," he said. "How is she doing right now?" Fresh tears started rolling down Lily's cheeks. "She's really sick, Mr. Tom. She barely moves anymore, and when she does cry, it's this weak little sound that breaks my heart. This morning I tried to wake her up, and it took forever for her eyes to open. I'm scared that if I don't get her some food soon—" She couldn't finish the sentence, but Tom understood. He had seen malnutrition before, in animals and unfortunately sometimes in people during the hardest economic times. A baby Rosa's age could deteriorate quickly without proper nutrition. "Why didn't you call 911? He asked gently. "Because I was afraid they would take her away from me. Everyone always says that social services splits up families and puts kids in different foster homes. Rosa is all I have left, Mr. Tom. If they take her away, I don't know what I'll do." Tom understood her fear, but he also knew that Rosa needed medical attention soon, or there might not be anything left to save. They were walking a very fine line between helping these kids and potentially making things worse. "Lily, I want you to listen to me very carefully," he said, turning in his seat to look at her directly. "What you've been doing, taking care of your sister, trying to find ways to feed her, keeping her safe, that shows more love and courage than most adults ever have to show. You should be proud of yourself for that." Lily looked surprised. She had been feeling like a failure for so long that she had forgotten she was actually doing something incredibly brave. "But," Tom continued, "Rosa needs help that you can't give her by yourself. She needs proper food and probably medical attention too. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means the problem got too big for one person to handle alone." "Are you going to call social services?" Lily asked, her voice full of fear. Tom thought about that question carefully. He could see several different paths forward, and none of them were simple. But looking at this child who had sacrificed everything to try to save her sister, he knew he couldn't do anything that would destroy what was left of their family. "Not tonight," he said finally. "Tonight we're going to focus on getting Rosa healthy again. Then we'll figure out the rest." For the first time in weeks, Lily felt a tiny spark of hope flicker to life in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay after all. "Now," Tom said, opening his door, "let's go get your sister everything she needs to get better." "And Lily?" "Yes, sir?" "You're not alone anymore. I promise you that." As they walked toward the bright lights of the grocery store, Lily felt like she was walking toward a new life. She had been carrying the weight of the world on her 12-year-old shoulders for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to have someone else help share the load. For the first time in a month, she wasn't afraid of what tomorrow might bring. The automatic doors of the supermart whooshed open. and Lily stepped into a world of abundance that seemed almost impossible after weeks of empty cupboards and counting every penny. The bright fluorescent lights made her squint, and the sight of aisle after aisle packed with food made her stomach rumble loudly. Tom grabbed a shopping cart and handed her a piece of paper. "I made a list while you were telling me about Rosa," he said. "But you know your sister better than anyone, so you tell me what she likes and what she needs." Lily looked at the list written in Tom's careful handwriting. Baby formula, diapers, baby food, medicine for babies, milk, bread, eggs, cheese, apples, bananas. The list went on, filled with things that had seemed like impossible luxuries just an hour ago. "Mr. Tom," she said quietly, "this is too much. I can't pay you back for all this." Tom stopped pushing the cart and knelt down so he was at eye level with her. "Lily, I want you to listen to me real carefully. When someone helps you because you need help, that's not a loan. That's not something you have to pay back. That's just people taking care of each other the way we're supposed to do." "But why?" she asked, her eyes filling with tears again. "Why are you being so nice to us? You don't even know us." Tom was quiet for a moment, looking at this brave little girl who had been let down by so many adults in her short life. How do you explain to a child that sometimes the world is full of good people, when her experience had taught her mostly the opposite? "You want to know the truth?" he said finally. "I had a daughter once who would be about your age now. Her name was Jenny, and she was smart and brave and stubborn, just like you. What happened to her? She got sick when she was 7 years old. Cancer. My wife and I did everything we could, took her to the best doctors, tried every treatment available. But sometimes, no matter how hard you fight, things don't work out the way you want them to." Lily felt her heart squeeze tight in her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Thank you, sweetheart. It was a long time ago, but you never really get over losing a child." Tom stood up and started pushing the cart again. "The thing is, helping you and Rosa tonight, it's not charity. It's not me feeling sorry for you. It's me doing what I would want someone to do for Jenny if she needed help and I wasn't there to give it." They walked toward the baby section in comfortable silence, both thinking about the ways that life can surprise you with both heartbreak and hope, sometimes in the same day. The baby aisle was overwhelming. There were at least 20 different kinds of formula, each promising to be the best choice for growing babies. Lily stared at all the options, paralyzed by choice after weeks of having no choices at all. "What kind was Rosa drinking before?" Tom asked. "The store brand from the corner market. The blue can." Lily pointed to a similar container on the shelf, but it was really expensive. Almost $15 for one can, and that would only last Rosa about 4 days. Tom did the math quickly. $60 a month just for formula, not counting diapers, baby food, and everything else. No wonder Lily had gotten desperate enough to steal animal feed. He put 6 cans of the blue formula in the cart, then added jars of baby food in different flavors: peaches, green beans, sweet potatoes, chicken, and rice. Then came diapers, baby wipes, medicine for fever and stomach problems, and a new bottle since Rosa's old ones were probably getting worn out. "What about regular food for you?" Tom asked as they moved toward the grocery section. "I don't eat that much," Lily said, which Tom knew was probably true. She was so thin he could see the sharp angles of her shoulder blades through her t-shirt. "Well, you're going to start eating more now," he said firmly, loading the cart with sandwich meat. Bread, eggs, milk, cereal, fruit, and vegetables. Growing girls need good food, and you've got to stay healthy so you can take care of Rosa. At the checkout counter, Lily watched the numbers climb higher and higher on the register display. $47, $83, $115. By the time the cashier finished scanning everything, the total was $168.34. Lily's mouth fell open. That was more money than she had seen in her entire life. Tom pulled out his wallet and counted out the cash without hesitation. Like spending that much money on groceries for strangers was the most normal thing in the world. "Sir," the cashier said, looking at Tom with curiosity. "That's a lot of baby supplies. How many grandkids do you have?" Tom glanced at Lily and smiled. "Just got a new one," he said. "Gotta make sure she has everything she needs." As they loaded the bags into the back of Tom's truck, Lily felt overwhelmed by gratitude and something else she couldn't quite name. For the first time in a month, she wasn't afraid of going home. She had food for Rosa, medicine if the baby needed it, and enough supplies to last for weeks instead of days. "Mr. Tom," she said as they drove through the dark streets toward her trailer, "I promise I'll find a way to pay you back someday. Lily, you know what would make me happier than getting paid back? What? Seeing you and Rosa healthy and safe? And maybe, when you're grown up and doing well, helping out some other kid who needs it. That's how you pay back kindness. You pass it along to someone else. The trailer park looked even shabbier in the darkness, with several streetlights burned out and trash scattered around the small yards. Tom parked in front of number 15 and helped Lily carry the groceries to the front door. The trailer was smaller than he had expected, barely bigger than a large bedroom, with thin walls and windows that didn't quite fit their frames. "Rosa's in here," Lily said, leading him into the main room where a playpen sat next to an old couch. Tom's heart clenched when he saw the baby. Rosa was even smaller and more fragile than he had expected. Her dark hair was thin and wispy, and her little arms and legs looked like twigs. When Lily picked her up, Rosa barely reacted, just lying limply against her sister's shoulder. "Hey there, sweet girl," Tom said softly, gently touching Rosa's tiny hand. Her skin felt cool and dry, and when he pressed gently on her fingernail, it took too long for the color to return. Those were signs of dehydration and malnutrition that could be serious if they went on much longer. "Let's get some formula into this little lady right away," he said, opening one of the cans they had bought. "And while she's eating, I'm going to make some phone calls." "Phone calls?" Lily asked, fear creeping back into her voice. "Don't worry," Tom said quickly. "I'm not calling anyone who's going to separate you and Rosa, but she needs to see a doctor, and I know someone who makes house calls for situations like this." While Tom mixed the formula, Lily sat on the couch holding Rosa, whispering to her about all the good food they had brought home. "Look, baby girl," she said, her voice full of hope for the first time in weeks. "We have real formula now and baby food and everything you need to get strong again." Rosa took the bottle eagerly, drinking faster than she had in days. Some of the formula dribbled down her chin, but she kept sucking hungrily, her little hands grasping at the bottle like she was afraid someone might take it away. While the baby ate, Tom stepped outside to make his phone calls. First, he called Dr. Martinez, who had been the town's pediatrician for 30 years and had a soft spot for kids in difficult situations. "Doc, it's Tom Wesley. I've got a situation here that needs your attention, and I was hoping you might be willing to make a house call tonight." After explaining the situation, Dr. Martinez agreed to come right over. His next call was to Helen Patterson, who ran the food pantry at the Methodist Church and had connections throughout the community for families in crisis. "Helen, I know it's late, but I've got 2 little girls here who need help, and I think your network might be exactly what they need." By the time Tom finished his calls, Rosa had emptied the bottle and was looking more alert than she had in days. Her eyes were brighter, and she even managed a small smile when Lily tickled her feet. "The doctor is coming to check on Rosa," Tom told Lily. "And I've arranged for some other people to help too. Folks who know how to navigate the system and make sure you girls get what you need without anyone getting separated." "Really?" Lily asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Really? You're not alone anymore, Lily. There are lots of people in this community who care about kids like you and Rosa. We just needed to connect you with them." 20 minutes later, Dr. Martinez knocked on the trailer door. He was a gentleman in his 60s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and hands that had delivered half the babies in town. He examined Rosa carefully while Lily held her, checking her weight, listening to her heart and looking in her ears and throat. "She's definitely malnourished and dehydrated," he told Tom quietly, "but you got to her in time. With proper feeding and care, she should recover completely. Another week or 2 without food, though, and we might be looking at permanent damage or worse." Dr. Martinez left behind some vitamin drops and detailed instructions on how to get Rosa back to full health gradually. Too much food too fast could actually make her sicker, so they needed to increase her feeding slowly over the next few days. After the doctor left, Tom helped Lily put away all the groceries, filling the empty refrigerator and cupboards until they looked like a normal family's kitchen again. Then he sat down at the small table and pulled out a notebook. 3 months later, Lily stood behind the counter at Peterson's feed store, carefully checking inventory on a clipboard while Rosa babbled happily in a playpen that Tom had set up in the corner office. The morning sun streamed through the dusty windows, highlighting the neat rows of feed bags and farm supplies that had once seemed like impossible treasures to a desperate 12-year-old girl. "How many 50-pound bags of chicken feed do we have left?" Tom asked, looking up from the invoices he was organizing at the desk. Lily counted again to make sure. 15 bags of the regular layer feed and 8 bags of the organic stuff, she said, making notes on her clipboard. Mrs. Henderson called yesterday and said she'd be by this afternoon to pick up 6 bags of the organic. Perfect. You're getting really good at this inventory system. Lily smiled, feeling proud of how much she had learned in just a few months. When Tom first offered to let her help out at the store after school, she thought she would just be sweeping floors or organizing shelves. But he had taught her how to use the cash register, how to help customers find what they needed, and how to keep track of all the different products they sold. "I like it," she said honestly. "It feels good to understand how everything works." The transformation in both girls had been remarkable. Rosa, now 21 months old, was a chubby, happy toddler with bright eyes and an infectious laugh. She had not only recovered from her malnutrition completely, but was actually ahead of other children her age in most areas. Dr. Martinez said it was probably because she got so much love and attention from everyone who had helped care for her. Lily had grown too, not just physically but in confidence and hope. She was back in school and doing well in all her classes. Her teachers were amazed at how mature and responsible she was compared to other kids her age. They didn't know about everything she had been through, but they could see that she had learned lessons about perseverance and gratitude that many adults never master. The community center daycare had been a perfect solution for Rosa's care during school hours. The staff there adored the cheerful little girl, and Rosa had made friends with several other children. Lily no longer had to choose between her education and her sister's safety. Helen Patterson from the food pantry had connected them with several assistance programs that helped cover their basic expenses. They still lived in the same trailer, but now it felt like a real home instead of a place where they were just surviving day by day. The refrigerator stayed full, the utilities stayed on, and there was always enough of everything they needed. But the biggest change was that Lily was no longer alone. Tom had become the father figure she had never had, teaching her practical skills and life lessons with the patience and care of someone who genuinely loved her. Helen had become like a grandmother, always ready with advice, a home-cooked meal, or just a listening ear when things got overwhelming. Dr. Martinez checked on Rosa regularly and had become a friend to the whole family. The staff at the daycare treated Rosa like their own child. Even Mr. Peterson, the store owner, had taken a special interest in Lily's progress and talked about maybe letting her work there part-time when she got older. "You know what I was thinking about this morning?" Tom said, watching Rosa stack blocks in her playpen while making happy gurgling sounds. "What's that?" "That night when I caught you trying to steal that bag of cattle feed. Do you remember what you were thinking when you saw me standing there?" Lily laughed, but it wasn't a bitter laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes when something terrible turns into something wonderful. "I thought my life was over. I was so sure you were going to call the police and that Rosa and I would get separated and everything would fall apart. And what are you thinking about now?" Lily looked around the store that had become her second home, then at Rosa, who was healthy and happy and loved by so many people, then at Tom, who had saved them both in ways that went far beyond just buying groceries. "I'm thinking about how lucky we are," she said, "and how different things can be from what you expect them to be." The bell above the front door chimed, and Mrs. Chen from their old neighborhood walked in. She had been one of the first people to help them when their mother left, bringing over food and checking on them regularly. Now she came to the feed store specifically to see how the girls were doing, and to buy supplies for the chickens she raised in her backyard. "Lily, how are you, sweetheart?" Mrs. Chen said, giving her a warm hug. "And how's our little Rosa doing?" "She's doing great," Lily said, leading Mrs. Chen over to the playpen where Rosa immediately stood up and reached her arms out to be picked up. Rosa remembered all the people who had helped care for her during those difficult early days, and she loved getting attention from her extended family of supporters. While Mrs. Chen cooed over Rosa, Tom and Lily loaded 6 bags of chicken feed into the back of her truck. It was the same kind of feed that Lily had tried to steal that night. But now she handled the bags with confidence and pride, knowing she had earned the right to be here through hard work and determination. "Tom," Mrs. Chen said as she was getting ready to leave, "I hope you know what a special thing you did for these girls. The whole neighborhood has been talking about it." "I just did what anybody would do," Tom said, but Lily could see the pleased look on his face. "No," Mrs. Chen said firmly, Not everybody would do what you did. You saw two children who needed help, and you didn't just help them once and walk away. You stayed, and you kept helping, and you made sure they had everything they needed to build a real life. That's not what everybody does. That's what heroes do. After Mrs. Chen left, Lily and Tom worked together to reorganize the display of horse supplements near the front counter. It was peaceful, comfortable work, and Lily enjoyed the rhythm of it. She also liked that Tom talked to her like she was a capable person whose opinions mattered, not just a kid who was in the way. "Tom," she said as they worked, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That night when you found me behind the store, did you really not know what you were going to do? Or did you already have a plan to help us?" Tom stopped what he was doing and looked at her thoughtfully. "Honestly, when I first saw you back there, I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew I wasn't going to call the police, but beyond that, I was making it up as I went along. What made you decide to help us instead of just letting me go? You want the real answer?" Lily nodded. "It was something about the way you were struggling with that heavy bag. You were so small and the bag was so big, but you weren't giving up. You were determined to drag that thing all the way home if it killed you, because you thought it might save your sister." Tom's voice got quiet. That kind of love and determination, you don't see it very often. And when you do see it, you have to honor it. "Even though I was stealing?" "Lily, what you were doing wasn't really stealing. What you were doing was trying to save a life with the only option you thought you had left. There's a big difference between those two things." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts about how much their lives had changed. Finally, Lily spoke up again. "I've been thinking about something Dr. Martinez said," she told Tom. "He said that sometimes good things come from bad situations, but only if people are willing to look for the good and work to make it happen." That sounds like something Doc would say. "What do you think about that?" "I think he's right. I mean, what happened to us was really bad. Mama leaving, Rosa getting sick, us almost starving. But if none of that had happened, I never would have met you. Rosa and I would never have found our real family." Tom felt his throat tighten with emotion. These girls had become the center of his world in ways he never could have expected. Taking care of them had given his life a purpose and joy that he thought he'd lost forever when his own daughter died. "You know what else I've been thinking about?" Lily continued. "What's that?" "I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help kids who are in trouble like Rosa and I were. Maybe I could be a social worker or work at the food bank or something like that." "I think you'd be really good at that," Tom said. "You understand what it's like to need help, so you'd know how to give it in the right way." The afternoon passed quickly, with a steady stream of customers coming in to buy feed, fertilizer, and other farm supplies. Lily enjoyed helping them find what they needed and ringing up their purchases. Some of the regular customers had gotten to know her story and always asked about Rosa and how she was doing. Around 4 o'clock, Helen Patterson stopped by with some paperwork about a scholarship program she thought Lily should apply for when she got to high school. There were funds available to help kids who had overcome difficult circumstances pursue their education and career goals. This program specifically helps young people who want to go into social work or education, Helen explained. They provide money for college tuition, but they also provide mentoring and internship opportunities while you're still in high school. Lily read through the application materials with growing excitement. The program sounded perfect for someone like her who wanted to spend her life helping other children and families in crisis. "Do you really think I could get accepted?" she asked. "Sweetheart, with your grades and your story and your determination, I think you'd be a